will be available on, there you go, and will be available on Community Action's YouTube channel. Parts of this event may be recorded and used by media outlets. I see Scott Freilich is here as a representative from the Janesville Gazette, so he may be asking some questions too. There may be resources shared in the chat. You can save the chat to your own computer to access those resources. At the end of the program, which is at 7, our sponsors will give announcements, and everybody else is welcome to make announcements in the parking lot afterwards, which is from 7 to 7:30, which will be unmoderated discussion on whatever topic you might choose. We recognize that we're meeting on the ancestral lands of Native nations. In Wisconsin, there are 11 federally recognized sovereign nations. We acknowledge these indigenous communities who have stewarded this land through the generations and who wish to pay respect to their elders past and present. And with that, here you go, Amy.
Thank you, Neil, and welcome everyone. Hopefully everyone has had a restful break from their normal schedule. Hopefully you've eaten too much and you've been someplace that was warm. So all of those things are things to be grateful for. Neil, thank you for getting us started. I'm so excited about our discussion this evening. We want to talk about resolutions that are centered in racial and social justice. So if you are planning to lose or gain weight, to save money, to be present, to drink more water, all of that stuff is great too. And I have some of those things on my list. But tonight we want to focus on resolutions that, again, are centered in racial and social justice. And what our team has agreed to is to hold space in future courageous conversations for check-ins. So what that will look like, we won't call on anyone. For example, Tony Capizzello, what are you doing? Remember back in December, you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. Have you done it? We're not going to do that. Tony, thank you for letting me pick on you a little bit. But what we will do is have space if someone wants to give a fantastic report for what they are doing to hold to their commitment. And the reason we're doing that is, one, we believe in the power of accountability. And two, we are hoping that hearing about stories for how people are engaging consistently in racial and social justice will inspire others to do more. And sometimes we find that if people had known about an opportunity, they would be more than willing to jump in and to lend a hand in their expertise. So that's the reason for that. We have several community groups who are going to, one, tell us a little bit about themselves, their organization, and their work, and then spend the bulk of their time. We'll use about 10-minute allotments, and then we'll ask questions after each speaker, but to share what their organization is doing and how we can potentially partner with them to amplify the work that they're doing. So I'm going to mute myself as soon as I introduce our first speaker, who is representing Allies of Native Nations, Renee Bew, who, spoiler alert, is the 2022 YWCA Rock County Racial Justice Award winner. I'll tell you more about how you can learn more about the work that Renee is doing when my segment comes at the end. But Renee, thank you so much for joining us and representing Allies of Native Nations, and then also, which we'll get to later on, the Immigrant Support Network. But right now, we'll just center the conversation again on Allies of Native Nations. Renee, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. And excuse me if my voice sounds a little weird. As I put in the chat, I'm not feeling the greatest today, so we'll see how this goes. And I will probably also ask Billy Bob to join in with me to talk a little bit about Allies. So Billy Bob, if you have things to add, please do so. Allies has been in place for, oh my gosh, is it 4 years, almost 5 years now, it feels like. And in that time, it seems like a long time, and yet seems like a very, very short time when I think about all of the things that we have accomplished in that time. So we meet monthly, and We meet on the fourth Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. And for now, we are still going to meet virtually. So if you're interested in participating in those meetings, I will put my email in the chat box later, and you can reach out to me and I will add you to our email list. Some of the things that we have worked on, the very first big project we had was to create an American Indian Studies resource guide for teachers. And for any of you who might be educators or who have taken the opportunity to look at DPI's American Indian Studies website, there is a plethora of information. However, comments that we had heard and we discovered ourselves as we were looking through it is that it was a little hard to navigate. And so we intended our resource guide to be used by educators, specifically in the school district of Janesville, to help them implement Act 31, which is a law in the state of Wisconsin that children must receive a certain amount of instruction in American Indian Studies, and specifically about the nations in Wisconsin, as Neil mentioned in the land acknowledgement, but also across the country and around the world. We were a smaller group then, and we had lots of great ideas, and then those ideas came together, and we now have Elizabeth Matson, who's the head of youth services at Hedberg Public Library, who is the keeper of the resource guide, and it is updated on a regular basis. And you can find it if you are interested in looking at the resource guide. You can find it on the DAT's website. I'll also include that in the chat so you can look at that. And right now, one of the other big projects that we have going on is this year we raised enough money to buy a complete set of Louise Erdrich's Birch Bark House books for every public school in Rock County that has a fourth grade. And we donated those books with a discussion guide and then also a copy of our resource guide. I and some of the other members, which by the way, Billy Bob is not the only member of Allies of Native Nations who's here tonight. Neil and Janet are also here, and probably other people have joined since I looked at the list of people who are here. Erin Conway, who is also one of the members, and Elizabeth Matson and I recently met with some of the teachers at Roosevelt Elementary School to find out what other kinds of resources that they need to be able to use the books, and how else we might be able to help them. And then we also asked them questions to figure out how we could move forward with our project, because we already have our book for 2022 chosen. It is Bow Wow Powwow by Brenda Child. And we're hoping to raise enough money that we can have Brenda probably do a virtual, but a workshop with educators in Rock County. We worked on our land acknowledgement statement, and it's now used by the Diversity Action Team at all of their programs also. We do programs throughout the year in partnership with several organizations in the community. I don't know, Billy Bob, do you have anything else that you would like to add to our list of things that we currently are working on or that we have done?
Well, it mainly started out with Columbus Day, and we took our little action group down to the Janesville School Board for the simple fact that they're still teaching in Janesville, Beloit, and other local communities that Christopher Columbus was this great guy, and he sailed the 7 seas, and he went to McDonald's every other day and blah, blah, blah. And none of it's true. Christopher Columbus never set foot in America. And it was an assignment given to me by my elders to start making that more noted. While doing that, when they were redoing the Act 31, we noticed that there are 20-some different nationalities represented in Janesville School District. And damn near every one of them has got this untrue history about themselves or their place of origin or how they got here. And I can't speak for any of those, but I can speak for the natives that, once again, this guy never set foot in America, and our children are still being taught this. As a result of this, again, I would have bet my life on here in Rock County. When Jeff was here and he did that mural downtown, I'd have bet the farm that mural would have been egged or defaced within days, and it's still there. People are starting to take note of truthful events in history. Then Jeff did another mural, and again, that is still there right next to a bar. It hasn't been defaced or anything else like that. We were working on correcting a monument in Palmer Park. Been there for years and years and years, and we're not against having a monument there, but we just wanted to be truthful. It was about Columbus, or I mean, Blackhawk.
Blackhawk.
Yeah, making a trip through here and having a camp down at Palmer Park and blah, 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 blah. And even though he's one of my heroes, I would still like the truth to be taught about him. And what's currently on that monument is not truthful. So we're just slowly addressing issues, this little bitty baby group. We are starting to get noted. Many of the gals on our committee have been known on a national stage as the girls. And we, I think we're proof that just a couple, a small group can make a difference.
That's what I would say, because I wasn't going to talk about the national level, but even our resource guide has been used across the state of Wisconsin. And we keep finding out more and more people who are using it. So that's pretty exciting. And so he says baby steps. Well, to us, we thought they were baby steps, but it actually, in hindsight, feels like giant leaps. And luckily, we landed safely and didn't have any bad repercussions, as Billy Bob said. We've had all positive response and reaction to everything. And yes, and then with the drum, it's really more because of the drum. We've actually received national attention as well. So it is I'm kind of glad that you started with Allies, Amy, because it is my example of how a small group of people can make a huge difference, not only in their own community, but in the larger community. And you will have days that it feels like, oh my gosh, are we ever going to do what we want to do, accomplish what we want to? But you can. And I'm also going to go back to the book donation project that we're doing. We do have a GoFundMe account set up. So if anyone is interested in helping with that project with a donation, we would be happy to have you do that. And I will try to remember to put that in the chat box also. I don't know if that's 10 minutes, Amy, but I think that's a pretty good summary.
Just under 11, but we've got a little wiggle room. So I definitely did not want to interrupt. Thank you in advance, Renee, for putting those resources in the chat. That's one of the things that I'm most proud of with our Courageous Conversations, is that I really feel like our chat every month is a resource, whether it's activities going on, ways to connect and engage, book reviews, articles, podcasts, etc. So thank you. And if there are others that have resources that are related, please do use the chat to include those so everyone can take part. I can't really take credit for the lineup. I just decided to do alphabetical order.
Oh.
Thank you. It is so good to hear from our friends at Allies of Native Nations. Thank you for all of the strong work that you have done. You are such a great representation of not only Rock County, but the jewel this program is in the state. Neil, you have your hand up. You go right ahead.
I just wanted to say that that Courageous Conversations can take a little bit of credit for getting Allies of Native Nations started, because it was our program with Billy Bob and Janet about Indian boarding schools that was the kickoff for it, or something like that.
Perfect. Well, this is a full circle moment. I so hate it that the speaker for DAT had to cancel. I was really looking forward to, hopefully she will be able to reschedule to do the Indian boarding schools presentation. So I'm sure that that information will be available if that rescheduling does happen. Renee, thank you again for putting the items in the chat. And Billy Bob, you are such a resource. We're grateful you're here every month, but thank you for contributing as well.
Well, let's hold that thought real quickly. You know, between Janet Labrie and Renee, they're quite forceful in Allies of Native Nations, and I wasn't moving as fast as they wanted to, and so they pushed me down, and I had to have surgery on my hand, and I was laying in the parking lot, and they were laughing and giggling, and yeah, they're tough.
Billy Bob, I hope you have a speedy recovery. However, you received those injuries, because I have a hard time believing that either Janet or Renee were responsible.
Oh, they were.
So noted. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have Diversity Action Team, but we're going to shuffle them to the end. And hopefully someone will join us. So we will move right along to Good Trouble Beloit. We have Tony Capizzello in the meeting this evening, who will get us started off. And I believe Tony brought a former student with him, who's going to provide some great information in ways that we can become engaged and involved. So Tony, I'm going to mute myself. You go right ahead.
Okie doke. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Tony. I am a high school teacher at Beloit Memorial. And Good Trouble is a group of predominantly former students of mine. Present right now should be Melissa Rhodes, Mario Nixon, Byron Kidd, Garrison Voigt, and let me see who else popped on here. Hi, Melissa. I haven't seen you forever. I think that might be all that we could, that made it on. We're having some Zoom troubles, but I invited them because a couple of them are new to the group, and I thought it would be good to have them present in case people wanted to understand more about what our group is about, including the people that are new to our group. But basically what it's about is this. In teaching 16 years in Beloit, I have learned a lot from my students about life in general. And COVID gave me time to kind of sit back and take a look at the status of the world and say, you know what, this is unacceptable. And so what we've done is we've pulled together a age range from 18 to 63 years old. Black, white, Hispanic, trans, straight, gay, you name it. And we meet twice a month, and we address issues. Oh, Bernie, are you in here too? I think she was in here. We address issues that are specific to where the 20 somethings and 30 somethings are at in life, and they all are in different places. They all come from different circumstances and situations, and this has just been a group that is not just a support group for people, though it is that, but it's also a group that helps give us some focus on how we can take steps to raise awareness in the general community and engage people to actually make meaningful change. So this group is and all we discuss is basically dictated by the people in the group. And the agenda is usually, I have to put one together, but I usually solicit a lot of feedback before I do so. We have stuff left over from the last meeting. And just to kind of wrap things up in the short here, we are planning a TEDx-like event for this spring in Beloit, because we have a hot list of topics that we believe we not only should discuss publicly, but then also, when possible, have resources available on the back end to have people plug into to get some help and or to engage in the process to make change. So Good Trouble did come from John Lewis, obviously, and we do really mean to make good trouble, but we want to be selective about the trouble we make and how we make it. And so I'm just thankful that everybody that I asked from the group to be here tonight is here, and their stories are fascinating. And I think that we're probably one of the younger groups that I've been a part of since I've been doing this kind of thing. And I think that is the gold of Good Trouble, is the youth, because their list of concerns and their view of the world is much different than mine. And I'm trying to make sure that we address them so they have some hope for the future.
Tony, thank you so much for joining us this evening, for your service to the school district of Beloit. Thank you. I am so excited that your students are here. You are under time. So if any of your students that would like to unmute, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are engaged in Good Trouble. And if there is one thing from the group, your work with the group, that you're particularly proud of, we would love for you to share that. I can't call your names because you're all listed as Tony Capizzello, but just, amongst yourselves, we won't talk over each other, but just unmute and kind of share with us. But before we do that, Tony, please do keep us updated on your event in the spring. I'm sure everyone from Courageous Conversations would love to hear more information about that, and we would be happy to share that out. So former students, please, in any order that you would like, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and just share with us why you're involved in Good Trouble Beloit.
Okay, I'll start. Can you guys hear me? Attention. Hi, my name is Melissa Rhodes, and I graduated in 2011. Beloit native myself, if you will. The reason why I am particularly involved in Good Trouble is because from my high school experience, I'm an immigrant myself. My family is from Zimbabwe, and coming into the Beloit School District, learning English here and just learning how to interact with things like that wasn't an easy process, and even the growing pains that we all go through. But what was special to me was my high school experience, because I'll say that that's a place where I had educators such as Mr. Capizzello specifically, who you see as, kind of like a family figurehead, a leader that you can trust, someone who will advise you, so to take away from individuals like that, and then to apply it in our, we went off to school, we got to incorporate the walks of life. But in situations like this, like given what has happened within the past 2 to 3 years, everything has come back to full circle. So we have to look at those very things because what has happened has forced us to look at things that, the world that we lived in before afforded us to not look at. So now that we're in a position to, I guess for myself, give back to the students what administrators gave us, is amazing within itself. And then to, kind of be part of the bridging process, because like you guys said, how it was is not how it is now, and further on and things like that. So I'd say that's my biggest one for Good Trouble. And then just to have people that are passionate enough for that.
Melissa, thank you so much for sharing, and I am particularly grateful as a fellow Purple Knight that you are willing to come back and to give back. We appreciate that. Are there any other students, former students, my apologies, from Good Trouble Beloit that would like to introduce yourself and share?
So, hi, my name is Garrison Voigt. Can everybody hear me? Okay, awesome. So I basically got into Good Trouble initially because of Mr. C. Obviously, that's how most of us got involved in the group. For me personally, it was just because Mr. C was kind of like Melissa was saying, always a figure that was more than a teacher, somebody I can always go to, somebody I can always rely on. And I'm probably one of the younger or youngest people in the group because I just graduated in 2020. And so I'm like fresh out of high school compared to everybody else. But no matter, like I met Mr. C in my freshman year, and even now 2 years out of high school, I can still count on Mr. C. So to me at first, it was basically just Mr. C had my back, so I'm gonna have his back. But as we got deeper into the group, as we get more members, as we kind of grow and expand on what we're trying to do, I kind of learned that, it's not only about helping Mr. C, it's about the fact that I still want to help, my family members that are still in Beloit schools, try to make a better community for not just everybody going to the schools, but Beloit as a whole, for my family who still lives there, for families who, see outside of Beloit and look in and think, oh, that's a terrible place to be, when it's really not the truth, And I've just learned that the most after moving. I live in Madison now, but I've met so many people from all over Wisconsin, and Beloit just seems to be kind of the laughing stock. And it hurts to see that, honestly, because it's just not the truth, but nobody's going to know unless you're from Beloit. And so if there's any way that I can help make change, make a difference, even in a couple people's lives, then I think that's a worthy thing to try. And so I think what I'm most proud of so far is just the fact that we've been able to create a sort of community in the group, kind of like Mr. C said, is not only just a group about taking action, it's a group for the people who join to kind of feel like a safe space and be able to share our stories, because we're all fighting the same fight, but we're all from different walks of life. We all have different reasons we're in. And I love that sense of community. And I know that we have the power to just continue to grow and continue to fight for the things we believe in. And I mean, with somebody like Mr. C at the head of the group, I don't see how we could fail. So it's really just an honor, and I'm glad I could be in the group.
Thank you so much. I don't want you to feel pressure, but if there are other students in the group, I definitely want to yield the floor so you can share.
Most
Okay.
definitely.
I'll let you go.
All right. How y'all doing? My name is Byron. I'm not gonna lie. I'm originally from Illinois. I moved to Beloit, Wisconsin in 2009. Became a part of, the Purple Knights. I ain't gonna lie. Mr. C, I usually wasn't the type to, for real. That's why I was glad he said, like, we all come from different walks of life, because I was like a part of the ditching class, not on purpose, it was just like I had personal stuff going on, you know what I'm saying, like everybody else. But I always made sure, because Mr. C class was always my first block, you know what I'm saying, first class of the day. So I always wanted to make sure that I went to his class, even if I wasn't there to learn something, just because, you know, I got something from him as a person, you know. But I had ended up actually getting arrested in his class around like 2012. And it was like I kind of felt embarrassed, you know what I'm saying? Like it was like a teacher that I connected in school, you know what I'm saying, connected with and learned something from. It's like he actually was there to see like my downfall, you know, a part of like the class and fellow students. But you know, I actually committed a burglary. I was homeless. Not a lot of people knew. You know, I had problems going through school, kept it in, was homeless, committed a burglary, ended up catching up with me. They arrested me in class. Went through that, actually ended up doing 2 years, got out, and still wasn't like, you know, on the right path, you know, but Mr. C always, I don't know how, but he always kept up with me, you know what I'm saying? It was like he just reached out to me out the blue, like, man, you know, I know we all going through stuff, just keep your head up, you know, words of encouragement, you know, even though I still ended up going to federal prison, almost doing like 5 years, ended up getting out in 2018. And he still was persistent on me, you know what I'm saying? Like wanted to see me do good and just motivating me. And, you know, I ended up now I'm on the right path, you know. Got my feet in some good endeavors, you know, and the music. Metro C has most definitely been a good role model for me. And, you know, I know for the community because there's still people around. I was a graduating class of 2013 and in the town of Beloit, and we still talk about him to this day. You know, he like a legend. But we, you know, that this really what is just the pride and motivation that I get from just other human beings, you know, encouraging. And that's why I really, you know what I'm saying, wanted to really, you know, join the group.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, Mr. Capizzello. I'm so excited that you get to receive your flowers while you can enjoy them. I know that what these students are sharing is very heartfelt, and I'm sure that means a lot to you. I believe there was one other student that was trying to get in at the same time. So just wanted, yeah, you are a lucky guy. Thanks for putting that in the chat. Just wanted to save some space if there was one other student that wanted to share.
Yeah, my name is Mario Nixon. I am a former Beloit Memorial graduate. I had met Mrs. C, similar to what Byron was going through. You know, I was a trouble kid growing up in high school, wasn't in class much. And when I met Mr. C, he was just, you know, one of those guys. He was open. He never judged me from the beginning. He took the time to get to know me, and he's been a very great mentor of mine still to this day. I go to him about advice. I go to him when I need help. And when he came to me about starting Good Trouble, to me, that was just some like, yes, like I want to be a part of that. I know his goals behind that is to actually help these kids and help everybody improve themselves and lives and improve their behavioral situations or just their situational life, period. And I just really wanted to be a part of that. And I wanted to be a part of a team led by someone such as Mr. C.
Excellent. And I will say, as a board member, I am so proud that Good Trouble continues to join Concerned Black Citizens, NAACP, Job, to keep things on our radar. And again, it's about that accountability. No one can escape it. And I just want to say publicly that I am grateful for groups like Good Trouble and joining with other groups to have that involvement in the community and push for things that are racially and socially justice centered. So thank you for that. Neil, I see your head up, so your hand up, not your head. So before we move on to Immigrant Support Network, go ahead.
I just want to say that I hope the people in Good Trouble see Courageous Conversations as a resource for you, and we would always appreciate your point of view whatever the topic is. It's every month, the fourth Monday at 5:30. And Mr. Capizzello can give you the contact to how to sign up for it.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Neil. Janet also put some information in the chat, so please make sure you look out for that. Next up, we have Renee Bew, who is pulling double duty this evening. Thank you so much, Renee. Renee is going to speak to us about the Immigrant Support Network and let us know how, if we are able, that we can get involved.
Thank you, Amy. So the Immigrant Support Network is even younger than the Allies of Native Nations. We are just going into our third year. And again, it started as a group of concerned citizens that wanted to learn more about how they could help the immigrant community in Rock County. Probably a little more Janesville to start out also, but it has definitely expanded. Our biggest thing that we have done is during the pandemic, we partnered with a lot of different churches and organizations like ECHO to raise money to help immigrants who maybe weren't able to, apply for some of the assistance that was available during the pandemic, because unfortunately, without citizenship status, Social Security number, things like that, immigrants are not eligible to receive any kind of federal aid. So we actually it happened very quickly. I would say within the course of probably just short of 6 months, we raised $80,000 to help immigrants in the community. And that help looked like food and gas cards, cleaning supplies, money to pay for medical bills, money to pay for rent, a variety of things. And we also had a GoFundMe account for part of that. That GoFundMe account is done now though, but through ECHO and Faith Lutheran Church, we are actually still collecting money to continue to help immigrants in the community. The other thing that we do is we have programs every other month. And so our next program is February 9th at 3:30. I am going to have to try to find a new person because the person I had to talk about the Afghan refugees in Wisconsin is not able to do it. So we will be talking about that, but I do think I have some people lined up for that. But we have regular big group meetings every other month on the second Wednesday of the month at 3:30 in the afternoon. And again, those also are virtual. One of the other things that we were starting to work on when the pandemic arrived on our shores, shall we say, was creating a ride program, because another thing that immigrants without Social Security numbers in the state of Wisconsin aren't able to do is get a driver's license. But they still have doctor's appointments. They still have appointments with, say, the Mexican consulate in Milwaukee or other consulates in Chicago and in different places. So we were starting to set up a ride program so that we would have people that could take immigrants to their appointments. Hopefully soon we'll be able to start working on that again. And we also cover a variety of topics at our programs. For example, in September, our program was about human trafficking. And human trafficking is a big issue in the immigrant community. And right here in our own community. So that was a way for people to learn about human trafficking in general, and then also how it impacts the immigrant community. I wish Miss Gina were here because she would fill in my blanks right now. But again, we are really through the pandemic trying to figure out ways that we can best help the immigrant community and reach out and do different kinds of projects. And like I said, programs every other month also. I think that might be all I have, Amy, for that.
No, that's perfect. Is there a way, I know that you had mentioned that, I believe you said Faith Lutheran, if people want to do monetary donations, are there other ways that we can become involved in the Immigrant Support Network that you're able to share?
Absolutely. One of the other things that we had been working on, and hopefully I think we have someone who will be able to pick it back up, is creating a website. So that website, we want to be a resource for people who work with immigrants and also for immigrants that they can use to connect with different services that they might need or different groups. And so if you are a whiz with creating websites, we have it started. We just need someone to pick it up and kind of continue with it. And then also attending the meetings. We have a leadership team meeting on the months that we don't have our program meetings. If you're interested in being on the leadership team, or if you know of a need in the community, please, please, please bring it to us, and then we will see what we can do. Right now, like I said, if anyone's interested in making a donation, you can either make it to ECHO, and in the subject, or not subject line, it's not an email, it's your check. The memo line, you can put immigrant support specifically, and the same thing, you can do that and make a check out to Faith Lutheran Church. They were really, they and the pastor that they had were really integral in getting the fundraising going. And just that one church within a couple of weeks raised $8,000. So that's pretty amazing, and they continue to do it. So those are some of the things, and I'll put my email in the chat again, because if anyone is interested in more information, you can email me and I would be happy to give you more information and add you to our email list.
Perfect. Renee, thank you so much. Ms. Sloan, I'm only doing this because if it's a problem, I know you will forgive me because you love me. Would you like to share any upcoming information for NAACP?
No, not about NAACP, sweetheart, but only because I'm not, I didn't talk to them about representing them tonight. I thought you were going to ask me about CBCB. I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing about the NAACP. I thought Tia or Dorothy might be on, but.
Well, let me ask you this. Can you confirm the meetings are still happening on the first Thursday of the month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. First Thursday of the month, and I want to say they're both virtual and in person at Beloit Public Library, and they meet, I want to say at
6:30.
6:30, because it conflicts with the Job meetings, because we meet at the same time. So yeah.
All right.
And Tia Johnson is our current president now. Dorothy Hill is no longer the president.
Right. So I will not ask you anymore about NAACP Beloit branch, but anything that you would like to share about CBC, Concerned Black Citizens, we would love to hear about.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to say congrats though to Tony and the young people. The stories are really inspirational, and I'm just really glad to see that kind of community activism amongst our young people, because that's really what we need. a lot more of. And I hope to see you all a little bit more, but thanks, Tony, for this. Beautiful. Okay, so CBCB stands for Concerned Black Citizens of Beloit. We're relatively young or new, let me say new, organization, nonprofit in Beloit. And I can't even remember, there was something going on at that darn school district, excuse me, but that's about the nicest thing I could say, that darn school district of Beloit. And it was so mind-boggling the way that the school district was almost ridding itself and almost publicly ridding itself of African-American administrators, the superintendent, and faculty. So that's been a little over 2 years ago. We got started before the COVID, but that was one of the motivators for us to come together as a Black community, protest, go to school board meetings all the time. But then we knew that we needed to also talk to our young people about what it was like for them to be at Beloit Memorial High School at that particular time with all this confusion going on. So we had a couple of Black town hall meetings and were very good, well attended. Over 100 people came to both of the two that we had. And then the third one was like this time of the year, I want to say in 2019, and the weather was so bad. So we had maybe 30 or 40 people, but it was still very well done. So now we've formed our not-for-profit status, and we will be continuing to have forums, town hall meetings that are going to deal with Black or African-American issues, because things are just going, let me say, backward. For the Black community, we're back to like 1940, 1950, lack of voting rights acts, the criminal justice system is worse. We've got a lot of issues to deal with that we must deal with first, that we must face and that we must deal with. So that's primarily what we're going to do. Eventually, we want to have tutoring and supplemental education for our young people, though, but we also want to help the parents, because you really can't help the kids unless you help the parents. Hopefully we can do both. So that's my little spiel. And if anybody wants to know anything else about it, feel free to contact me. Thanks, Amy.
Absolutely. Ms. Sloan, do you mind putting your email in the chat so people will know how to reach out? And I love the multi-generational approach to the work. So very excited to hear more from Concerned Black Citizens. Congratulations on your nonprofit status. I know a lot of hard work went into that.
Certainly did, but it'll be worth it.
Yes, ma'am. All right, Julie, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but feel free to pass. Since you are here representing Community Action, if there's any work going on an ongoing basis for Community Action that's centered in racial and social justice that you would like to share, I just wanted to offer you that opportunity.
Right now, we don't have anything specific going on. I know that, Mark has been, in the past gone on trainings or done trainings for people. I'm not sure what the status is right now of that. I know as far as a regular update for community action work, we're picking WERA up again right after the first of the year for that emergency rental assistance to prevent evictions. And so if you know of people who are in need of that help, please direct them back to Community Action's website again.
All right, thank you so much. So I will round us out with speaking a little bit about what we're doing at the YWCA Rock County. I kind of want to do this in chronological order, but some things overlap. It'll make more sense once I begin. One of the things that we are so excited and proud to do is to partner with Diversity Action Team and also Community Action of Rock and Walworth County to put on Courageous Conversations. For any of you that are not a regular, they happen the fourth Monday of every month. 5:30 to 7 with the parking lot following immediately after. We've kind of made the decision to keep these virtual, so feel free, again, as Neil said earlier, to register month by month. We try to keep our topics relevant, so we don't have a full year planned out. But if there are suggestions that you have, you can email myself or Neil or Julie or Carrie Dre, who also represents the Y on the committee. One thing that we have coming up is Women of Distinction. It's going to be in the spring. And the reason I bring that up with racial and social justice is that people are still commenting on the last class of women that we brought in and the diversity. I think 4 of the 6 nominees last year, well, recipients, not just nominees, were women of color. And that's something that we're extremely proud of. As I'm sure all of you know, that what we do at the YWCA is that our mission is to eliminate racism and to empower women. So you can help us with keeping that diversity in our next class of Women of Distinction. The nomination deadline is actually coming up on Monday, January 24th. Of 2022. So I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat. Please feel free to visit our website. You can click on if there is a woman that you would like to nominate. Please, I encourage you to do that. And we would love, I don't do any of the selecting or anything like that. So just so everyone's clear, but we would love to have another diverse class of women to celebrate. So I'll put that out there. The next thing that we do that's centered in race and social justice are our lunch and learns. We typically have these on a quarterly basis and we take the summer off. Many of you may be familiar that the Race to Equity Rock County report was released at our 7th annual Racial Justice Conference. I'll put the link to that once I get done talking, just in case anyone hasn't had a chance to read it. It's a 76-page document. It talks about the racial disparities in education, health, well-being, and deep-end systems, which include child welfare, juvenile justice, and adult criminal justice. And I love that it's centered on Rock County, and then again, highlights those racial disparities in the 4 areas that I mentioned. So what we're doing with our lunch and learns for 2022 is we're adding a summer lunch and learn. So we will have winter, spring, summer, and fall, and we're going to break the report down one section at a time at each of our lunch and learns. So again, you can go to our website. The Zoom information will be up. Technically, I'm on vacation. I'll be returning to the office January 3rd. Julie's laughing a little bit. But I do have the dates for you, but those Zoom links and you can register. But for winter, spring, summer, and fall lunch and learns, again, we're going to break the report down into 4 sections and spend an hour walking through them. They do happen over the noon hour. We're very respectful of your time. We start at noon, we end at 1. Thanks for the note, Julie, just made me smile. But hopefully you will join us. We're going to invite guests from each area. So like for educators, I'm going to invite all of the superintendents in Rock County and as many of their staff members as are available to help join in that conversation. We look at things like on-time graduation rates, non-proficiency rates at 4th and 8th grade in reading and math. The numbers are terrible in the county. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read the report. Out of school suspension rates disaggregated by race. Again, terrible. So we need to, as a community, start tackling the reasons behind these numbers, unconscious bias, conscious bias, etc. There's not just one thing, but the first thing is to look at the data and to pull the people together who are able to effect change. So hopefully you will join us for our lunch and learns. Next up, Black History Month. We always do internal trainings and external. What we did last year is each week we highlighted little known amazing people in Black history. Benjamin Otis Davis Sr., Henrietta Lacks, Alvin Ailey were just a few that we highlighted last year. So we're looking forward to doing something similar this year. And we believe that this work starts at home. So we always do internal trainings, which we do throughout the year, but just being very intentional to use Black History Month as just a recommitment, a reminder to doing that internal work as well. we jokingly, non-jokingly say we celebrate Black History 365 days a year. In April, we have Stand Against Racism. We are really hopeful we're going to be able to do in person this year because it is outside. It happens simultaneously in Beloit at the Harry Moore Pavilion, and then in Janesville, right outside of City Hall. Shout out to Randy Terrones, who's not on the call, who already emailed me about reserving the space. So thank you. This year, we are going to have that event on Thursday, April 21st. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well. So please use this as a save the date, and you can join us at one of those locations. Each year we get our theme from YWCA USA, which hasn't come out yet, but we should have that, I would say, by the end of January. And again, that's our April event. Next up, our Juneteenth celebration. Just wanted to share with you, YWCA Rock County partners with the Elite Ladies of Beloit. This year, we're planning to be back in person. Our celebration, Juneteenth is June 19th, but our celebration is going to be the Saturday before. So that will be at Telfer Park on Saturday, June 18th. It is an all-day family-friendly event that shares culture, food, music. We have a softball tournament for the kids going on at the same time. So it's really a wonderful event to bring your families out. And again, we're excited. We are planning to be back in person this year and hope to do that safely. Next up, probably our biggest event of the year, the Racial Justice Conference. December is the only month of the year when I am not planning for this conference. Next year, we still need to make the decision if we're going to be virtual or in person. My boss has thrown out the idea of being hybrid, which hopefully she won't stick with, because that's like planning 2 conferences at the same time, but we'll see. Everything's still on the table. Planning for this will start back up at the start of the year, but I do have the date. Our 8th annual YWCA Rock County Racial Justice Conference will be happening Thursday, November 3rd of 2022. So I've put a lot of things in the chat. We've heard from amazing local groups. For our final 30 minutes, I want to open the floor for questions that you have for any of us, for discussion about why this work is important. If you want to share things that you are excited to continue in the new year that is centered in racial and social justice, this is the space to do that. So I am going to mute, just so we're not stepping over each other. Neil, you have first dibs. I see your hand up. If you could put a question mark in the chat, then I'll know who to call on, or you could type out your question in the chat and I can just read that if everyone doesn't have it open, but that way we won't be talking over each other. Neil, the floor is yours.
Maybe my mind wandered when you were talking, Amy, but I didn't hear about the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration in January that I know you've been working hard at putting together.
Neil, your mind didn't wander. So in my mind, I put that one to bed because I just wrapped on that on Friday. So thank you for the reminder. YWCA Rock County was again incredibly humbled and excited to take the lead in planning. This is the event that I'm sure all of us in the call has been to at one point in time that typically happens at Black Hawk Technical College. This year, out of an abundance of caution, we are again virtual. It was a joy to work with Stephen Pickering. It was a lot of work. We had all day of shooting a few Mondays ago. So filming has wrapped. It will air on Saturday, January 15th on the YWCA Rock County Facebook page. It's going to be a live premiere, even though it's pre-recorded. And I think just about everyone from the filming is going to be logged on. So feel free to tell everyone what a great job they did. This was amazing. If there are community events around the MLK holiday that you want to share, that's going to be a great time to do it. So again, that's Saturday, January 15th. It's going to premiere live on the YWCA Rock County page. Our keynote speaker was Chief Andre Sales. He came in on his day off. I didn't realize it was his day off, and then I felt bad. He did a great job. Spoiler alert, our student speaker is a 7th grader from Cunningham, and she is going to blow you away. Both of her parents were there for filming, and I just turned around and I said, your baby girl's a star. And they just had these big grins, and it's going to be amazing. I haven't seen the finished product yet, but we worked with Steven last year and it was great. So I'm just really grateful that he partnered with us again this year. Proud mama moment. My baby girl does the pledge. She did a really great job too. I'm completely unbiased. But yes, we have a really great cast. Nikki Tordeau, a 3rd grade teacher from School District of Janesville, is our MC. She is an absolute natural. So we had a lot of fun taping. It was a lot of work. A lot of people came together to pull this off. And thank you, Neil, for the reminder, because I did not include that. So I'm going to open the floor. Any questions?
It's at noon, right, Amy?
It is.
12 noon.
At noon on Saturday, January 15th on the YWCA Rock County Facebook page. So again, if you have a question for anyone that we've heard from, so YWCA Rock County, Allies of Native Nations, Good Trouble, Immigrant Support Network, please, we love to welcome questions. If there are things that you kind of heard of that we may have left out because we have so much going on, feel free to ask questions about that. While we are waiting for questions to come in, Neil, it is my turn to put you on the spot. Diversity Action Team of Rock County, is there anything that you would like to share that DAT is doing?
Kay just said to me, how come DAT didn't get called? And DAT did get called at the very beginning, and nobody was here to speak. So, except Billy Bob and me. What are we doing? We had a get together, an informal social get together week ago today, and we probably had about 15 or 20 people at O'Reilly's, which was fun. We have monthly programs. Usually it's the second or third Thursday. Amy, do you remember? Third Thursday?
Third Thursday of the month, starting at 6, which is a change from the last DAT calendar. It kind of goes back and forth between in-person and virtual, but I think the next few are scheduled to be virtual. And if you have missed any, I record them and pass them off to Renee, and Renee gets those posted on the Hedberg Public Library's YouTube site. Did I get that right, Renee?
Yes, and actually what I will do, I was just getting ready to put the rest of the upcoming programs for the season. So it'll be February through May. I'll put those in the chat, the topics, and they are all virtual.
Great, thank you very much, Renee. I don't think of anything else. We're just really happy to continue to connect with the YW and Community Action for Courageous Conversations and the Martin Luther King program. And it's just nice to have friends and allies working together for racial and social justice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil and Renee, both for the update on DAT. So what I just dropped in the chat is the Race to Equity report for Rock County. So again, it covers those 4 areas. So health, education, well-being, and deepened systems, which again, child welfare, juvenile justice, and criminal justice. This was the culmination of 3 years of work. We were so excited to work with Kids Forward out of Dane County. Some of you may be familiar with the Race to Equity Dane County report. So this is the Rock County version. Again, 3 years of data pull and analysis coupled with talking to people on the ground in the community so that we could provide context with the numbers. So please do click on that link, review the report, Feel free to join the lunch and learns, ask questions. But what we really, our greatest hope for this report is so people will look at the disparities along the lines of race in our county and work within your sphere of influence to mitigate and ultimately eliminate those racial disparities in the areas that are covered in the report. I am happy to serve as a resource. What I have been doing with organizations is reviewing the report with them through the lens of what they do. So far I've presented ADHERE, which is Health Equity Alliance of Rock County. I have an upcoming meeting with County Board for Rock County, and also the city of Janesville to kind of discuss what that report means for them. So I'm excited that organizations are reaching out and wanting to partner, but it comes down to accountability. We have to be clear on what's going on in the county so that we can take action again to mitigate those negative racial disparities in the areas that I listed. So the floor is open. We have about 20 minutes remaining of our regularly scheduled program. We've gotten a lot of great information. If there are things that you are doing that we haven't discussed, we want to hear about those things. What keeps you motivated to do the work with racial and social justice, particularly if you are not a person of color, and you have the option to opt out, but you are choosing not to. I would love to hear why. If there are resources that you would like to share with the group, I'm going to mute and grab a couple books that I think have been really great and that I'll share with the group. So I'm going to mute, ask questions, and let's have a dialogue.
This ain't so much as a question, but for me, some days you just run out of steam, and because it's a lot of work. And but what gets me going is a gathering like we have here tonight. There's Tony and Tony 1, Tony 2, Tony 3, and Melissa. It was great to have you guys. We have Renee. I met a gal at the Christmas party last week for Diversity Action Team, and she was telling us about the church next door to Echo is actually being responsible for getting 5 families out of Camp McCoy, and they're bringing them into Milwaukee. So again, that's there's so much going on. Then we have the legend Miss Wanda with her efforts in Beloit, and you just hear this stuff over and over and over. And I think we could fund all our programs by getting the secret pill that that Renee takes and Amy takes, that they can keep going and going and going, like those little Energizer bunnies. I couldn't keep up with them, Jesus. But it gives me a lot of hope that this work still goes on, and a lot of time it's done by all of you in your home, in your car, over a cup of coffee, at the coffee shop. It just continues, and that's amazing.
Billy Bob, I will just say you keep us on our toes. My ears always perk up when you talk because I have no idea what you're going to say next. There is no magic pill. I will just say that I am taking, but just on a very personal, very selfish note. I love the work that I do, and I do it because I'm a Black woman in America. I do it because I am raising 2 Black children, and I know what the world looks like for myself and for my children, and what I would love for it to look like. And there is a gulf there. So before we get to more questions, I do have some book recommendations. If other people will ask questions when I get done, I will have time to type the titles of the book and the author in the chat. So that's just a little helpful reminder. All right, so the first is White Rage by Carol Anderson. Very good read. The second is Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. One of the things that I love about this book is that in the most loving way possible, does not leave a corner to hide in. The other thing that I love about this book is it gives so many resources. Every chapter, there's probably 10 to 15 resources to articles, books, pieces of art, music, etc. Just kind of casually drop throughout the book. So it's kind of like the best possible rabbit hole of resources.
What was that one? Sorry, was that one again?
Yeah, it's Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. It's not a large book. You can kind of see all of my Post-its in there. Push Out, anyone who works with children or in education. It's The Criminalization of Black Girls in School by Monique W. Morris. And again, once you start asking questions, I'll put these in the chat with the author. I just picked this up. I'm excited to go through it. It's the 1619 project. The hard copy book is out. Nicole Hannah Jones spearheaded this, but there's so many wonderful contributors throughout this book. It talks about the period of enslavement in our country and how that started in 1619. So definitely a great resource. Robin DiAngelo's latest book, Nice Racism, has a cute little bow on that. And it's how progressive white people perpetuate racial harm. And I will do a quick story with this without outing anyone. I will just say that there was a person who was giving a presentation, a kind of the progress that's being made with diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. And the comment was made that they got to the slide where they were talking about the leadership team. And said, I know the leadership team looks like me. This is a white woman who was presenting. She said, but we all get it. Like we all have support diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. And that's even better than basically having diversity. And I thought I was going to fall out of my chair. And I'm like, did I just hear that? And so I gently pushed back and I said, did you, because sometimes you say stuff and it's different in your head than when it comes out your mouth. And I assume positive intent and I wanted to extend grace and all of that good stuff. So I kind of rephrased what I heard, excuse me, back. And I said, are you saying that having like a room full of white people making decisions that impact all people, including people of color who get it, is better than actually having people of color at the table? And the person said, oh, well, it's not, maybe not better, but it's just as good. And I said, okay, wait, we got to stop. And I said, okay, I get that sometimes race can be a difficult thing to talk about. Let's substitute gender. I said, that's like you saying that a room full of men who love, honor, respect, and just adore women are better at making decisions that affect all people, including women, than having like actual real life women at the table. Like that's what you're saying. And I don't know if the person fully got it or not, which led me to recommend this book. So again, the title is Nice Racism: How Progressive White People Perpetuate Racial Harm. This does not mean that all progressive white people perpetuate racial harm, but some do. And this is a book, if that is not your intention, that may be helpful in helping you resolve some of that. And that's by Robin.
But we may not all do it all the time, but I think all of us do it some of the time, us white folks. So don't give us too much credit, Amy.
'Tis the season. I'm feeling extra generous, Neil. But thank you for that. Okay, so this one, The Half Has Never Been Told. People are probably tired of me recommending this book by Edward Baptist. I am going to tell you, this is a difficult read. It's a thick book. It's not difficult in like the words are hard and you got to look them up. It is an emotionally difficult book to read. I had to stop multiple times just because I'm like in tears and to process. So it's The Half Has Never Been Told: Slavery and the Making of American Capitalism. And not to give too much of it away, but the way the book is organized, hold on, let me let it miss class, is instead of like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, it's feet, hands, right hand, left hand, tongues, breath, seed, blood, backs, arms. And the chapter that just took me out was 7, which is seed. So take your time, read this book. It is difficult, it is tragic, it is heartbreaking, but I think everyone should read it because this really happened. And Black people living in America are still having to process this. And then the final book that I have, we did a whole Courageous Conversations about it, is Critical Race Theory, which I know is a scary topic. Critical race theory, this will explain what it is and what it is not. Spoiler alert, critical race theory is not being taught in any K-12 school. Thinking and speaking critically about race is different than critical race theory. This talks about how the theory that the law may be biased and harmful in a lot of ways to people of color, and that may be the way it was constructed. So critical race theory, this is the key writings that formed the movement. So it talks about the theory that is taught in law schools, which is graduate level coursework. If you did not get a chance to watch our Courageous Conversations on critical race theory, what it is and what it isn't, please do go back and rewatch that. You can watch any of these on Community Action's YouTube channel or YWCA Rock County's YouTube channel. That is a lot of talking. I am going to pass the mic. Neil, if you could spearhead the questions for a little bit. If anyone is interested, I will get the books and the authors included in the chat.
Thank you, Amy, for being an advocate for reading, and you'd be a great librarian if you weren't so good at what you're doing. Okay, if anybody has questions for what you might be resolved to do for the coming year in terms of racial and social justice, please ask. I see Wanda Sloan has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I just want to make a couple of announcements and then suggest something, because the books that Amy just suggested to us are all excellent. They're all excellent. I saw Minister Bell out here earlier, but I guess he had to leave. And he's another one that's worked tirelessly in the community on reentry programs for particularly young men that have been incarcerated and they've been released from being incarcerated. So I wanted to recognize him and the work that he's done. I wish he was still on so he could talk about some things. But other than books, there's another resource I'm sure you are all familiar with, but it's on C-SPAN and it's called Book TV. Well, I've watched it a lot for the holiday in between all my family coming and eating a lot of food. But earlier, it was yesterday, I believe, there was a young man that had was from Illinois, but he had been charged with 2 other young men for raping a young white woman at Whitewater some 20-some years ago. What he shared with the audience, he's the author of this book. Oh geez, no, and I'm sorry, I wrote it, it's in my bedroom, and I'll send it to you so you'll all know what it is. But he talked about the experience of going through the criminal justice system. And he said, I don't live in Wisconsin. I'm not a resident of Wisconsin. He said, but because I was in Waupun and Dodge County for so long, I feel like, you know, I'm invested in Wisconsin. And he really talked about the poor system that we have here for public defense and how most young Black men, of course, won't get a proper defense, and just, you know, how little they're paid, how overworked they are, that kind. But if you can just go on C-SPAN and look up Book TV, and it was aired, I want to say in October, so it was re-aired today. But it was just such an excellent presentation of what particularly Black men, go through. He was innocent of the crime again, okay? So he was innocent, but he had said something about his innocence when the judge gave him a chance to speak at his trial. And he simply said, "What I've done to my mother, I'm so sorry for that." He said, "But I will not admit to a crime that I did not commit." And the judge in Wisconsin literally told him, "I don't like your attitude. I could give you 30 years, but I'm going to give you 28. And the young man did 10 years in prison, and he is now an attorney. It's just the most wonderful real life story that I think you'll really be interested in. Then the other thing I want to share is that Lexi Payton, I'm not sure if Lexi still lives in Janesville or if she's in Beloit now, but she had a cousin that was killed here a few months ago, and it's one of those unsolved shootings in Beloit. And what made me think about this was Amy announcing the Martin Luther King program on the 15th. Lexi's also having a town hall meeting on gun violence in Beloit on the 15th. I think it's from like 3 to 5 o'clock at the Beloit Public Library. And so hopefully I can send that more information to you as well. But that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Didn't mean to take that much time.
Wanda, what's the name of the program on C-SPAN?
It's called Book TV.
Book TV, okay.
Yeah, on C-SPAN. And I was privileged to go there maybe 2 years ago in that White Rage with Carol Anderson. I was there in that studio being taped in person with her, and I was just about to pass out. I was fanning out so bad because that book is so excellent, and she's such a wonderful author. And to be there and see her in person was a real thrill for me. And so this young man was taped in that. It's at they always hold them live at the Madison Library. So it's easy to get to if you ever want to go up there and hear one of these authors of some of these wonderful books we're talking about. That's where they're held.
And what's the name of the book by the young man?
Oh, geez, you would ask me.
You told me that you didn't have it.
I don't know. I'll find it and I'll send it back. Again, I wrote it down in another room.
Okay.
I had no idea I was going to be talking about it tonight, but I'm going to watch I'm going to watch it because you can just look it up on C-SPAN and Book TV.
Okay.
And I'll get you that information, Neil. Sorry.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else have comments, questions? Amy, thank you for putting all those names in the chat, and I've copied them onto a Word document so that in case I can't find where I saved the chat, I'll have them. And you all know how to save a chat, right? You go to the chat and far right corner are 3 dots, and you click on the 3 dots and it says save chat. And you click on the save chat and it gets saved somewhere in your computer. You probably have to look up Zoom or something like that, but it's there. I've checked it. Okay, we have 6 minutes before the parking lot. Any other comments or questions? I'm sorry that we didn't have a representative from Standing Up for Racial Justice, Surge. I thought we were going to have a person there and from that, but that's another resource for people in Beloit. So I want to say that my resolution, now the whole point of this is what resolutions are we going to make for the coming year, okay? So we're not going to ask you what yours is, but think about it for a minute and write something down, because if you just think about it like me, it'll go out of your head and come, and you might have trouble getting it back in again.
Oh, for sure.
So write down what your resolution is going to be, and mine is going to be that I will reach out to people who don't look like me and make connections. not just business kind of connections like planning stuff, but just personal connections. And that's probably going to be making telephone calls because we can't go out for coffee yet until the COVID numbers are back down. But that's going to be my resolution for the coming year. If anybody else in the next 4 minutes would like to say what your resolution is, please feel free.
So
Oh,
while
God,
we're
here
waiting,
goes.
oh, go ahead, Billy Bob.
Here goes. My New Year's resolution for this is I'm going to continue to be forward on a lot of these Native issues. There's a couple of them that I'm sure you're going to hear about soon. But that's not the problem. The problem is after all these years, I needed to go from violence, like at some of in my 20s, when they would call for action with natives. That was the first instinct. And I have been working on the last 15, 20 years, and I know Amy might not believe this or not, but I'm trying to do this without telling people who are at least willing to listen, to kiss my, using.
Family show, Billy Bob.
Yeah, I'm really learning that I'm finding that I have more power without those words and without those actions. They were important to me when I was young because I had a lot of elders around me and go get them, but for me, it's especially with my granddaughters. They're watching, they're listening, and I'm gonna do it this year again. That was last year's, but I got to keep working on it because it still kind of slips out now and then.
Very proud, Billy Bob. Julie, I see you have your hand raised. Or you're muted.
Oops.
Try again. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. For my resolution, I would like to try to get more people from Evansville involved, joining in on courageous conversations and other work to educate our community and to hopefully, especially with our youth, bring everyone along.
Great.
So I just wanted to say quickly, thank you for reaching out to the Evansville community. My friend Donetta Fox is on. So Donetta, I see you and I'm so excited that you are here. Not my resolution, but I just wanted to say I did drop a couple podcast options. Hopefully some of us are taking some time off. If while you're doing whatever you want to listen to a podcast, there's some good ones there. So anyone who doesn't have the chat open, hear us teaching hard history, Code Switch, Into America, The Stoop, 1619, Historically Black, and then Natal. Natal is a new podcast that talks about Black motherhood and the dangers surrounding that and kind of navigating those systems in the most healthy way possible. So just some options from my podcast list in case that's your thing. We have arrived.
Did you put those in the chat yet?
Yep, they are in the chat. Neil, thank
Oh.
you for taking the helm for a few minutes while I typed those things out.
Okay.
We've arrived at 7 o'clock, which is the end of our programming. So I'm going to go ahead and end